Most of our trips at Wheel and Anchor are about going somewhere, moving through a place, picking up its rhythm over a few nights and then carrying on to the next one. But our live-aways are different. On a live-away, you stop, you pick a place, you settle in, and you give yourself enough mornings in a row that the cafe around the corner starts to feel like yours. This one is different again, because here we do it twice, a week on one island and then a week on a second, with nothing in between but a short flight. The same idea, doubled, and the two islands could hardly be less alike. Most people know the name, the Canaries, but not many Canadians have actually been. They've always been a place Europeans go, but we don't, which is most of the appeal as far as I'm concerned. The first time I stood on the crater on Mount Teide on Tenerife, I had to remind myself I was still in Spain, because it doesn't look like Spain. If I'm honest, it doesn't look like Earth at all. In fact, they've tested Mars rovers up there on that ground, and once you've seen it, you understand why. The Canary Islands sit off the coast of West Africa, further south than Madeira, which means that in the worst of a Canadian winter, the weather here is almost unfair. They're volcanic and as young as land goes. Some of it, in fact, is still being made. You might also know that some parts of these islands have given themselves over to high-rise package tourism. The areas we've chosen have not. We take a week on Tenerife, the biggest island in the chain, and a week on La Palma, one of the quietest. The gap between those two is the whole point of the trip. Tenerife has a reputation, and some of it is undoubtedly earned. The south of the island is wall-to-wall resorts, sun, sand, and there's not much that's tinerfeño about it. We don't stay there, we don't even go there. We base ourselves in the north, in Puerto de la Cruz, an older town, a working town, with a black sand seafront and an old quarter that was here long before tourism was a word anyone used. And then there's the mountain. Teide is the highest peak in Spain, higher than anything on the mainland, and the national park around it is the most visited in all of Europe. Which would be a problem, of course, except that we try to go before anyone else does. We'll head up before dawn. We'll have breakfast as the light comes up over the crater. Then there'll be a session with a solar telescope where you can look straight at the sun, safely of course, and you'll get to see the spots and the flares. It's a remarkable activity. We might even be among the first people in the whole hemisphere to view the sun that day. Then we get to walk across the Obsidian and the Pumice, that Mars rover ground. And if Mother Nature will let us, we'll take the cable car up to 3,500 meters above sea level. Once again, you might find it hard to believe that you're on an island until you look out from that peak to see the cobalt blue of the Atlantic in the distance. That's the trade-away a live-away buys you, not seeing more, seeing it better. But there's an older story here too. Long before the Spanish came, these islands had their own people, the Guanche, and you'll leave knowing a fair bit about them. And then there's the wine, grown straight out of black volcanic soil. One evening we taste it well away from any town, under a sky with nothing to spoil it, which turns out to be exactly the right introduction to the second island. La Palma is the island people mean when they call the Canaries beautiful. The Spanish nickname is La Isla Bonita, and for once it earns it, though not in a postcard way. It's green where Tenerife is bare, steep, folded and forested with a fraction of the people. Two things make this second week. The first is the sky. La Palma has some of the darkest, clearest nights anywhere on Earth. Clear enough that the international observatories are built along its ridges, and clear enough that the whole island is protected by law to keep it that way. You're close enough to the tropics to see stars from both halves of the sky, north and south, which you simply can't do from home. On a good night, you don't even need a telescope. You just need to look up. The second point is more recent, and this one stays with you. In 2021, a volcano on the Cumbre Vieja ridge opened up and erupted for nearly 3 months. Cajoguete is what they call it now. It buried homes, roads, whole banana plantations under lava, while people stood and watched it happen to the places they'd lived their entire lives. We go and stand at the edge of that lava field, and what stays with you isn't the geology, as remarkable as that is, it's the accounts from the Palmeros who were there, what they lost, what they managed to save, and what it is to rebuild on ground that's still warm. I found it genuinely moving. You're not looking at history, You're looking at something that happened practically the day before yesterday, told to you by the people it happened to. The rest of the week runs gentler. A laurel forest older than the ice ages. A family farm where lunch is whatever came out of the ground that morning. And a cigar still rolled by hand. None of it is hurried. That's La Palma's pace. And a week is just long enough to fall into step with it. Here's what a LiveAway gives you that a moving trip never can. 2 weeks is about the right time for a group of strangers to stop being strangers, given the right conditions, of course. We start each island stay with a get-together, a drink, an evening, names exchanged, and we always close with a special dinner. But the bookends aren't really the point. It's everything that happens in between. We get all sorts of folks, people who farmed in Alberta, taught school in the Maritimes, or maybe run a business on Vancouver Island. People who have lived different lives entirely, except for the part where they'd rather spend 2 weeks understanding one place than 2 days photographing 6. By the time we get to the second island, there's people sharing taxis to viewpoints, holding a table at dinner and comparing what each one found that afternoon. That's the part that's hardest to put in a brochure, but it's usually the part people remember most. February in Canada is a long stretch. Most of us, if we go anywhere, we go somewhere warm and familiar, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But you could also spend 2 weeks on 2 islands almost nobody you know has been to. Warm, slow, still half volcano, with a small group of Canadians who take a long lunch over a long checklist any day. And if 2 weeks isn't enough, some people pair these islands with our Madeira LiveAway, just over an hour flight away to the north, which enables them to take a whole month out of winter. I'd certainly understand the temptation. The box below has a link to the dates, the islands, and everything else you'd need to know. I'd be delighted to have you join us.